And now, conclusions. So conclusions, like introductions, are very, very easy, very straightforward, and a lot of students stress about them, but unnecessarily. They can be very easily mastered. You don't need to stress about conclusions. So there are two ways to write a language analysis conclusion. The first way, which 90% of students do, is just to summarize what they've written so far in the essay. That's not ideal because you're not really adding anything new, you're not finishing strongly, you're not showing off your skills, so it's not ideal. If you can avoid that method, that would be great. The second method is analysing how the writer themselves concluded. So analysing the last sentence, the last paragraph, or the last idea of the writer. That's a very strong, very beautiful, very poetic way to finish your language analysis essay, and it has a conclusive feel because you're analysing how the writer concluded. According to my teacher, who was a VCA assessor, it's a totally acceptable technique, totally acceptable method to use, and it's actually preferred because you're showing off your skills and you're doing additional analysing. I know a lot of teachers say you're not allowed to analyse anything extra in the conclusion, so if your teacher is of that opinion, make sure you don't do it, just in case they make you lose marks in the SAC. So clarify with your teacher first, but if your teacher allows you, this method is really, really great. So we'll go through a couple of example conclusions after this, but first, these are some phrases for conclusions. So in the study guide, again on page 6 actually, you'll see examples of conclusion phrases. You'll see examples of phrases for the conclusions. Try to use them, create your own phrases for conclusions, and recycle them when you write language analysis essays. So finally, so we'll go through some of these sentences. So, for example, finally, the writer not only positions the reader to agree with him, but to be an equally passionate advocate for action on the issue. A very nice conclusion sentence. Aiming to leave the readers with a sense of urgency, the writer puts this idea at the end of his piece. The placement of the idea at the conclusion of the piece aims to leave the readers with a sense of urgency. Very, very nice conclusion sentences. The placement of the idea at the conclusion of the piece ensures that the readers not just read and go on, but to keep thinking about blah, 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 or to continue to be haunted by the idea of children suffering, or to continue to be haunted by the idea of people living on less than $1 a day, or whatever the issue is. Places an onus on the readers to act. Onus means responsibility. It's my favorite conclusion word. Very frequently, writers end their pieces by placing an onus or a responsibility on the readers to act in a particular way. So it's a very, very nice conclusion word, and I'd highly encourage you to consider using it. So the writer places an onus on the readers to ensure that they are responsible for the environment, or places an onus on the readers to act on child abuse, or whatever the issue is. It's a very, very versatile word, and it's a great word to use in a conclusion. And now let's go through a couple of conclusion examples. So this is an example of one of my conclusions, for the 2014 exam. However, it's a bit longer than I usually write conclusions, but it's a good example, so I thought I would use it. I'm going to read it first, and then we'll analyse it together. So the writers both conclude their pieces with the idea of dreams. Jürgen presents a romanticized, seductive image of hope and possibility. The ideas she propounds about space exploration being a positive force reach their crescendo at the end of her piece, and she leaves her readers with a sense of unbridled joy and optimism. Similarly, Lakis ends his piece with the idea of a dream. He ends his piece with a simple, direct, colloquial sentence beginning with a direct address. Okay, he is resigned to the seemingly rampant problems in the world and settles for dreaming that something might only be a dream. Lakis' resigned, defeated aura suggests to the readers that we must return to simplicity and address important problems before dreaming of the next big thing. So the writers both conclude their pieces with the idea of dreams. So I'm analysing using the second method, which is concluding with how the writers themselves concluded. And in a comparative, you would do both. So how both the writers concluded. So Jürgen presents a romanticized, seductive image of hope and possibility. All of her ideas reach their crescendo, and it's a beautiful image of hope and optimism for the future of humanity. Lakis, on the other hand, has a more resigned approach, and he acknowledges that it's only a dream. He's like despairingly disappointed in humanity, and he wants us to return to simplicity and to return to focusing on the real problems first. But they both do end with that idea, and I'm concluding by analysing how both of them end their pieces. Hope that makes sense. And this is the second example of a conclusion that I wanted to share with you. So the writer concludes his piece with the triumphant inference that cycling brings benefits on many levels: the individual level, the community level, and the planet level. This movement, from the microcosmic personal benefit to the global permanent advantaging of the planet, is very likely to entice the readers. In their desire to be commendable global citizens whilst maintaining their own level of comfort, the readers are very likely to respond to the writer's call. So again, analysing how the writer themselves concluded, and it has a very, very conclusive feeling. You're still contributing, you're still being creative, you're still begging for extra marks, and you're not summarising, and you're not just regurgitating exactly what you've said. So yeah, I hope that clarifies conclusions. Hopefully conclusions and introductions are the easiest thing you do from now on, and hopefully now you can focus all of your energy on body paragraphs and master body paragraphs. There are lots of phrases for conclusions in the study guide. Make sure you make your own list of phrases that you like as well, and as I recommended, every single time you write a language analysis essay, make sure you have your study guide with you. Go through the phrases that you like, use those phrases. The more you use them, the more you improve your relationship with your study guide, the more it will be ingrained in your mind, and the more likely you are to remember those phrases when the exam comes around. Make sure it's a year-long relationship and that you use it every single time you write an essay. Even your text response essays, you can use some of the phrasing in your text response essays. Yeah, use it every single time. Make sure you try to read and reread it and use it as much as possible, and only then will the phrasing become second nature. There's lots of useful phrasing in there. Page 6 is where the conclusion stuff is. So yeah, have a look and see how you go. Email me if you have any questions, masad@happybrain.org.au or Naba and ABA@happybrain.org.au, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck.